24. Mi smo stream ide, muzika ide, da počekamo 2 minute pa da ono...
Ok, a di ću sad, tu ću vidjeti gore, jer vidim da si...
Ovo ti je final stream, znači
okay.
Ja ću biti tu i maknit ću ti...
Ok, dobro.
Trebaš vode još da ti nalijemo?
Ne, da popila sam dosta, ali ne budem izdržala.
Tak imam koliko tako da ti treba nije problem, ali likera, žutoga od limuna.
Ne, pa da postanem tu vesela.
Samo ti je, limonet.
Ne, sve je okej. Ovu smo zvali ovoga Luči.
Ne, u struju, u sigećici cijelu. Nećemo mi stream izgubiti, znači nećemo njih izgubiti.
Ja se samo malo bojim od...
Ne, izgubit ćeš ti ekrana, znači nećeš ti više vidjeti
njih, ali...
Stream ćeš dalje, samo ćeš...
Ok, da imam i taj back, ok.
Sve na UPS-u nije problem, samo ćeš izgubit ćeš ti njih. I rasvećeš.
Ne znam, tu trebam samo gledat, jel tako?
Ti si... Da te ne buni ova kamera.
Ok.
Jeste danas sve. Sutra smo studio ili bez studija?
Molim?
Sutra si ti tu ili sam sve virtualno?
Ja moram isto doći jer moram najaviti.
Tu se sve vidi kako ja sam provjerio. Ok, znači tamo će trebati galeriju napraviti da ih vidite sve. Ovdje imate prezu.
Najjednostavnije da slučajno opet ne znam.
Da, ovdje ću vam odmah prezudić.
Statement ide prvo pa preza.
Statement će ići iz mog programa, ne budete tam vidjeli, neće ovdje.
Ok, dobro. Znači tu ide prezentacija.
Linker imate?
Imam. Čuju nas kak pričamo. Ne, ja se nadam da se ne čujem, zato što su mi javili da se čujem.
Zvuk ti ide vanka.
Ja se nadam da se ne čujemo van više.
Ne, više se ne čujemo.
Ok, dobro. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second day of our event celebrating women in media. Today, our topic is Women 360, where we would like to tackle gender balance in the European audiovisual sector, but also focus on our supported media film stories. We, the desks from Austria, Croatia, Germany, Hamburg office, Greece, Italy, Torino office, and Portugal, are collaborating and bringing this event together. We are also happy and honored to be supported by the EU Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education and Youth, Ms. Maria Gabriel, and allow me to read her statement. Thank you to the Creative Europe media desks in Croatia, Austria, Germany, Greece, Italy, and Portugal for organizing the Celebrating Women in Media Week. Supporting gender equality is vital if we want an open, innovative, and creative European media. Initiatives like this matter. They're important because they connect women in media across the EU, highlight professional achievements, celebrate role models, and put forward best practices. With a budget of 2.44 billion euros compared to 1.47 billion euros of the previous program, the Creative Europe program has, for the first time, a diversity criterion in all schemes of its media strand. This means that applicants will also be evaluated on the merits of their gender equality and diversity content. At the same time, the Media and Audiovisual Action Plan is doing its part by funding specific actions to foster European media talents before and behind the camera. This year, we will continue to strengthen our structured dialogue with our audiovisual and media stakeholders to develop more concrete actions. We are on the right path, but there is still a lot of road ahead of us. Let us continue to work together. Indeed, it's always a teamwork, it's always a collaboration, and yesterday we introduced first six great women. Today, allow me to introduce you another grouping of 6 great and wonderful women. So I will see if we can also share their quotes while I'm naming them, but let me start with Maite Vukok from Germany, Dubravka Turic from Croatia, Christine A. Meyer from Austria, Joana Guzmao from Portugal, Lucia Milazzotto from Italy, and Daphne Behci from Greece. Dear ladies, welcome. It is my also honor and pleasure to host you. But before we actually highlight each of your work and discuss gender presentation or underrepresentation, I would like to tackle some highlights with the presentation I prepared for you. So let us begin. So, according to the European Audiovisual Observatory report from 2016 to 2020, we need to be reminded that the member countries of the European Audiovisual Observatory is a bit higher number compared to 39 countries in the media sub-program. So there is a total 47 member countries, and let's see how share of women in terms of the percentage was present and in terms of their participation per film. So directors represent 21% versus another percentage area towards men. Screenwriters participate 25%, producers 30%, cinematographers 10%, composers 7%, lead roles in terms of actors and actresses 38%. For the purpose of our event, I'm introducing the share and the percentages of our respective countries involved in this event. So when it comes to share of women directors per country and per film, you see that Austria is leading with 30%. Then we have Germany, Croatia with 25%, Greece, Portugal with 15%, and Italy with 10%. In terms of participation of screenwriters, female screenwriters, you can see that Austria is again leading with 35%. We have Germany and Croatia with 30%, Greece with 25%, Portugal with 20%, and Italy with 15%. So more or less, we are almost sharing the same percentages. When it comes to producers, Greece is leading with 35% of the participation of female producers, Croatia with 30%, Germany, Portugal with 25%, Austria, Italy with 20%. And when it comes to cinematographers per country and per film, Austria is leading 15%, Germany and Greece with 10%, Italy and Portugal with 5%, and Croatia is not listed because it's probably even below zero. Share of women composers per country and per film, Austria, Germany, Greece, they share 10%, Croatia, Italy, and Portugal, 0%. And when it comes to the lead roles, so we have Austria, Germany, Greece, Portugal with 40%, Croatia, Italy with 35%. So, since it's a bit, how shall I say, challenging to organize and to have an open panel discussion, I needed to divide into two different groupings. So, going back to the title, Women 360, I'm starting with the first part of our audiovisual chain. So, in the first grouping, I would like to call Maite, Dubravka, and Kristine. Welcome. So, nice to have you. Nice to have you here. Let me start first because the thing is, and I know that in our also preparational meetings, it's a bit difficult to ask each of you the same questions because you present different professions. And you're devoted to different genres of the films. So you will maybe have some similar questions, but also I would like to tackle your work and your personal point of view in terms of the gender balance in the European audiovisual sector. So let me start with Maite. I would like to present her as the person who is with us on a panel as a producer devoted to animation, and especially animation for children. But Maite is also quite innovative and very good in bringing these innovative business tools, being supported by media, and quite some technical and VR experience involved in her work. And she's also chairwoman for animation at the Producers Alliance Germany. So let me start with some facts. When we discussed Maite, you underlined, and especially I read your interview in Cine Europa, that animation for children is the most successful segment of German film abroad, and that actually within the segment of animation, women are the ones taking the lead.
Yes, that's what I thought. But, you know, I actually, since we spoke, I looked up some numbers and I found this study by Women in Animation. And it says that actually only 10% of producers in animation are women. And I thought, you know, that we were, it feels like there are more women than in live action, but apparently that's not true.
The thing is that I also personally know more women and in terms of developing animation films. I mean, just to name your co-productions and collaborations with Motion Film, with Mo from Ireland. So there are also quite some Croatian animators and producers that are known. So also my personal point of view was that there are more women. But then also, when I searched, then I was a bit also surprised that in comparison to documentaries and fiction as such, animation is still even represented. So,
yes, and even in the artists that work on the animation films, it's only 20%, and that actually also confirms my experience that the people that are actually working on the films, maybe because it's also with computers and tech heavy, and that there are not a lot of women working on it.
That fact, if we look at your work, and maybe now it's a good time to see the trailer. I like the fact that you're always having as the main role girls, little girls, like female characters, as not only as a superheroes but as an inspirational roles. But let us check the trailer first. My Fairy Troublemaker.
How did that get there? Violet, look at you. Who's there? Sammy? Oh, how did you get here? Huh? Huh?
Is it breakfast time?
What on earth?
Huh?
Sammy, what did you put in my dollhouse?
Okay, little lady, hand over the tooth.
Stay away from me, you talking bug, bird, thing!
I am not a bug or a bird or even a thing. I'm a tooth fairy.
I'm going crazy.
Nah, you can go crazy after I get that tooth.
What tooth?
Playing dumb, huh? Well, nobody plays dumber than me. Wait, that didn't come out right.
You cannot be real. There are no such thing as tooth fairies.
Actually, there are. Like me, Violetta. We're really not supposed to tell you we exist. But look, I need your tooth to get home. Oh yeah, and this is Gwen. She's cool.
Did you?
Conjure it up? You bet. That's your prize. Therefore, you, Sammy and Ann, owe me one tooth.
I'm not Sammy. My name is Maxie. I lost all my teeth ages ago.
Then who's Sammy?
My stepbro... He lives in the next room. I can't believe you're real.
Believe it, girlfriend. Now listen, I need your help. Can you get Sammy's tooth for me,
What?
Maxie?
No, no way.
Please, this is my first mission, and I'm in this totally new world all alone, and I can't blow it.
All alone, huh? Fine, I'll get the tooth. I bet it's still under his pillow. One sec.
Wow. At least I'm right about one thing. Professor Lauren's exam does not prepare you for this.
yes. So it's also your original story.
Yes, it's an original story. It's based on an idea that I had, and then I had a great screenwriter who did the screenplay. So I didn't write the screenplay. It was just the initial idea.
Also to tackle, there were also Petronella Applewich. It's also with a female character, and you are developing it. You're also developing The Last Well Singer with your collaborator Reza Memari. If I'm
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. In this case, we actually have a female and a male protagonist. So we have two. The Last Whale Singer is a guy, but then he has a best friend, or he finds a friend who is a female whale. So I try to. If it's not only girls, we of course try to balance it. But it's good that you bring it up, because when I started developing the Fairy Troublemaker a long time ago, that was in 2009. We actually had a lot of discussions with distributors and with financiers, also because they said, okay, if it's only girls in the main who are the protagonists, and then it won't sell as well. And I never had these discussions when it was only boys as protagonists and there was no girl. That was never a problem. But I think it's changing. Like you said, we have a lot more female characters also in animation now. So there is definitely a change. But when I started developing it, it wasn't there yet.
One point that you also mentioned in our earlier discussion is in terms of representation of women in animation, but you also benefited a lot from the trainings you went through, like developed by Eva, which one else? Vifty, like, so it's this networking that really helped you to find your partners and to find also financing for your projects as well.
Yes, for me it was always important to do the networking events. I did Erwe Plus as well. We're always present at Cartoon Movie, which is, I think, for animation, the most important co-production market to find financiers and to find co-producers. And I also did a mentoring program by EWA, EWA. And I had a more senior producer who actually was my mentor for 1 year. And that was when I just started my own company, and it really helped me to take the next steps. And I find it very important to have these kind of mentors. I found them very useful and important to take the next steps in my career, definitely. And they weren't all female. I also had male mentors.
I also brought it up yesterday, so it's good to mention that it's a nice combo of different points of views, and it's important also when you are growing up in this journey, you as a producer. And yeah, thank you. Now I would like to move to Dubravka Turic. So until, let's say, 2014-15, we've known you in Croatia and around Europe and internationally as editor. And then all of a sudden with Belladonna, so your first short film, winning the Orizzonti Award for Best Short Film at Venice Film Festival in 2015, somehow, how shall I say, you were recognized also as a scriptwriter and director. So adding to your, the usual title, editor, also scriptwriter and director, and somehow you are moving also with your other films into this direction. So how did this happen?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. I think this is really a good panel and what we really need. As long as my long editor career, I always had a urge to tell my own story. I always had it in my head, and it took me a while to get the courage to do it, but then I thought it went good, and I think it was the right decision and in the right time.
Maybe for our audience we can see a trailer of Belladonna so that we get familiar with your style.
Okay.
Znate da su žene prije kapale neko otrovno bilje u oči. Da im pogled bude sjajan i dubok. Ovako ko vaš.
Yes. So, three female stories. They're meeting at the ophthalmology clinic, and they're somehow getting closer together. And in your next short film, if you allow me to continue, Cherries, which premiered in Cannes 2 years after, it was also a family drama, but based on a story of a female writer, Olga Savicevic-Ivancevic. And then finally, I come to your third short film, Tina. We have again main protagonist, Tina, who comes abroad and is trying to revive family customs. And finally, your first feature, Traces, innovates again, devoted to the female character, scientist, and lots of also personal stories involved here. So you, as I like to joke, you are like the perfect example. You like to develop your projects with female screenwriters or on your own, but also always in teams with producers, female producers, and somehow there is also a nice thing to see that you have a very good connection, collaboration with Croatian actress Lana Baric, who seems to appear in all your films. So I gave this introduction, but maybe you can back me up a bit.
Yes, apparently it is not a thing that I count on when I never thought that I want to work with women. I think it's just something that comes organically and spontaneously. But yes, now when you put it this way, yes, maybe I was not aware of it. As long as the stories and the characters in my films, of course, there are women protagonists, mostly based on the one strong character, the movies. And the storyline, it's because I come with the stories or from some emotions that come out of me. And that is a world that I know what to tell about. And that is something that is interesting me. But what I would like to say, just because before I forget, that this was really shocking for me to read your statistic that you gave on the intro, because I would never say the female workers in film industry are that the numbers are so low, and which reminded me I always had a feeling that, you know, like it's normal, you work with a lot of women. And I remember the first shock when we have, if you must remember, of course, in 2019, there was an international conference on women in film industry in Zagreb, which I think it was organized by media also. And I was really shocked to hear the numbers, as well as I was today again, and I will be always shocked and shocked. And even you said the lead roles are just 35%. So I think that's horrible. But if we just take a look in Croatia, let's say in 20 years ago, until now, the women, we saw like women directors are now on 25%, I would say. Because before that, I remember when I was a student, we had just one active female director, just one. So we are getting better and better, but it's still not good. I'm not saying this because I think it has to be half, but it's just in terms of widening the world. The stories are different, the sensibilities are different. You know, it's just a normal thing that it has to go to more equality. It's just, it has to.
Relate to you what you also mentioned in our discussion earlier, that it's not that we just need to have a special highlight or column, you know, we need to introduce so many films for women, but we need to also insert from the bottom up in terms of the female decision makers, female jury members, so that they also additionally, as evaluators, bring a different point of view. So in this sense, we would then definitely encourage diversity, gender diversity.
Yes, of course, because otherwise I have a feeling it would be very pushing, you know, like we have to have some numbers. It's not about that. It's about, you know, having things that are coming logically and organically. And that's exactly what we need, because we need women on all bases of not just the ones that are doing the film industry, like directors or screenwriters or I don't know, composers. We don't have them. I mean, it's terrible. But we have to do it from the beginning in all layers. They have to be directors of festivals, the decision makers, the woman in decision makers in festivals, the juries, you know, everywhere. And of course in fundings, very, very, I think very important from the beginning.
Definitely. I mean, the rumor has it that we are working on our study to present the data, you know, how women are represented in the Croatian audiovisual industry, which brings me now to my next, thank you, Dubravka, to the next panelist, Kristine Amaja. From Austria. I mean, Austria seems to be on the right tracks. I mean, yesterday we heard in Esther's presentation that you introduced gender incentive. You have very clear data. So a lot of those things are changing and blooming in Austria. But as you could see from my presentation, when it comes to your profession, cinematographer, I mean, you're still really, really underrepresented. So maybe you mentioned in one of your interviews that introducing a quota for women at the film academies will make also a huge difference. And when you were starting your studies, that it was really below zero, that now it's a bit changing. So maybe if you can tackle on this issue. We can't hear you, Kristine. Kristine, we can't hear you.
I just said, you know, concerning universities, the change started already 20 or 15 years ago. I mean, when I was studying, I was the only female cinematographer studying cinematography in Vienna. And I had 3 colleagues, so I was 25%. But now, since 10 years or 15 years, you know, there's always 50% of female cinematographers studying at the academies. And I'm teaching in Berlin and sometimes in Cologne or Ludwigsburg. And I see that there are a lot of female cinematographers. But in a way, when you see how many are really then in the business, it's a big gap. So you're losing a lot of these students and a lot of these women. And so it means that there's a certain kind of systemic or kind of structural problem. And the question is, of course, why, you know, because when I was studying in the 90s, I was thinking this is not a problem anymore, you know, that we have equal chances. But now we are in the year 2022, and 10% or 15% films are just shot by female cinematographers. It's really shocking in a way. I mean, it's going better and better, but the numbers are, for me, very shocking. So there's a structural problem.
I mean,
and I have the feeling, I mean, in my career, I had the feeling, for me, it was very important to have female mentors. So, and when I started to make feature films, I mean, I mostly worked with women, and mostly women directors, female directors choose me to work with them. So without growing together with these women, I think it would have been even worse, you know, because at that time when I started, there was nearly no female cinematographer around in Austria, and most male directors just worked with male cinematographers.
Brings me to the next point. So only 1 film in 5 is directed by a woman, 21%, which means that the vast majority of the funding resources, so like 84%, go into films that are not directed by a woman. And you also, when Dubravka was mentioning, you were like nodding in terms of the fair distribution of funds, is something that we also need to introduce.
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, it's, I mean, as I said, in the universities, the balance is different already since so many years. So it should find, you know, when does it start to really get better? I mean, it's getting better, but, you know, I think we have to wait another 100 years. I don't know. So I think a quota is speeding it up. And because it was so slow, I mean, I finished my studies in the 90s, end of the 90s. And now 20 years later, it's still out of balance. So I think the quota is the only way to change the system.
Introduce the gender balance. So hopefully at the national and at the European level, we will need to collaborate a lot together. Yeah. When it comes, I mean, you underlined collaboration with women, and in your really impressive career, there are quite some female names. Just to name a few, Amy Ziegel, Vivian Neffe, Pia Marais, Sabine Derflinger, Ruth Mather, and one
Barbara Albert.
Yeah, I mean there's a quite list, so I can go on. But one really stands out, and this is the director Jasmila Žbanić, whose film Quo Vadis Aida you collaborated on many films, and this was somehow your, how shall I say, the moment of your collaboration, this 2021, when the film was awarded by 3 awards at the European Film Awards, or Oscar nominated, but also a Lux Audience Award this year. So just before we get into our little discussion on that, maybe see the trailer, Quo Vadis Aida.
Their tanks are getting closer and closer by the hour.
We are doing everything we can. Aircraft are on standby and ready to launch an attack on all positions held by the Republika Srpska army.
What will happen if the planes don't come?
They will come. They will come.
Ljudi, baza je puna. Niko više ne može ući u bazu.
Brega is a safe area under protection of the United Nations.
Kao čovek, kao general, garantujem sigurnost za svakog nevinog.
Do you have your family here?
2 sons. Do you think we are safe here? The Serbs are inside the base fully armed.
What? Get uniform. Mi smo civili.
Pa s kim ratujemo 4 godine, jebem vam majku vam jebem. Sve civili.
Preživjeli 3,5 godine rata, preživjet ćemo i ovo.
Šta će biti s nama?
Ne znam.
Ja ako ostane glud umrijeću, ja moram bježati odavde.
Vesme, možeš mu povesti moje sinove iz baze.
I da ubiće i Srbi ako i nađu. Ubiće i mene. Samo bez panike i propustite malu djecu i žene. Škarci, naravno.
Hajde, odmah.
Ljudi idu tamo gdje je bezbije.
They are killing people outside.
Dogovor je bio.
I don't know where my family is. Svidio moje. Tarik, svidio moje. What will happen to us?
Yes, so quite emotional film, and we are also going to offer screenings for the audiences in our respective countries. But before we get into this highlight, I'm just curious, there are many films that you've collaborated with Jasmila Žbanić. So how did you first actually meet? How did this collaboration started?
We met on the street, more or less. I mean, 96, I went with a colleague from the Film Academy to Sarajevo because we organized a festival where one of our, we tried to invite Bosnian filmmakers and films, 96, but it was not possible. And then we drove to Sarajevo to bring films and cameras and DVDs, and I'm just shocked how actual this film is. I mean, I don't know. I was just now very moved by myself. Yes, and we came to Sarajevo after a very long drive of, I think, 48 hours. And the first person I met was Jasmila Spanic, because we were looking for the Film Academy, and it was night already, and we asked we asked Jasmila where to go, and she said, yeah, it's here. And then she said that we can stay overnight in the apartment of her mother. And we stayed there for 10 days. So this was the beginning of our collaboration and of our friendship. So we grew together, and this is something which, you know, was for me very important, to grow with certain female directors like Barbara Albert, Ruth Mader, or Jasmila Spanic. So we started a kind of networking, you know, like we grew together.
And yes, definitely Jasmila always offers strong personal and very emotional stories. And if I may tackle, just a year ago there was one comment regarding the film, and unfortunately, who would have thought that it's happening already again today, because somebody mentioned it is so important to tell this story so the whole world knows what happened, so it never happens again to anyone else. So I really echo and follow that it's not easy to again see such films really taking place, because we always think that we learned a lesson. So I understand that you
no, and
Jasmila,
yeah. The thing was that Jasmila also wanted to tell the story differently, you know, really from a female perspective. So we made a decision not, you know, how to treat violence when you're doing a film about the war. So she really, I think, she really wanted to do it differently, and I think she did it, you know, telling the story from a very female perspective. And these were the stories which were maybe never told, or not so often told. You know, most in war movies, you have this heroization of violence, and you see a lot of explicit violence. And Jasmila wanted to consciously to have another perspective on it.
And I hope that our audiences will also watch the film starting with this Friday. So I really encourage everyone to join. Just before we move on to the second grouping, is there something that you would like to see changed, and some kind of your personal recommendation? Maybe I start with Maite. In terms of better gender balance, how we can also introduce this. We heard yesterday at the European level that there will be some quite important actions, and it's already being implemented starting with this year in Creative Europe Media sub-program. But from your personal point of view?
Well, I think for me, at the moment, what I'm focusing on personally is to represent, or to make sure that female representation in the stories that we tell is really, for me, that's really important. And I think, of course, it goes hand in hand that it's also important to have the people who are involved to make it equal. And I know that I try to do that with the work that I'm doing and with the projects that I'm doing. I try to hire from our animation studio. We try to hire as many women as we hire men, because I also see this imbalance between the people who are educated, the women who are educated, and then the women who work. And I'm still trying to find out where that imbalance starts and why. And like Christina said, I think it's very important, the steps that also the funds are taking, that they have to actually report on how many female and male artists they are supporting. So I think that's a really a good step.
Dubravka, the same. Unmute yourself, Dubravka. Dubravka, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry. Yes, I think what is also most important above all the things, there are panels and art radionice, I'm sorry, workshops, yes, and everything. I think the very important thing is to exchange experiences between ourselves, to encourage young women to go, and we can help them any way they can. We can, because we are maybe ahead of the young ones, and just to be a side of one to each other.
As a solidarity, yeah, and exchange of knowledge. And
Yes.
Christine?
No, I had the same thought. I think it's very, very important, this solidarity between, also women and to support each other in a way also, that we are also talking about money, and that we learn to talk about money, because I have the feeling that, I mean, in certain budgeting, there are a lot of women, but they're between money and the Anteil, how do we call it? There's a reciproc relationship. So it would be really, or it's time that, also in the higher budget films, that there are more women.
Okay.
And yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for all this sharing. Don't leave, just also stay with us. I would like now to call the second round of 180. I'm joking. You were first 180. This is a second round 180. Because now we're going to focus on representation of women when it comes to festivals, VOD platforms, markets, but also tackling sales and marketing. So I would like to start with Joana. Let me see if she's here. Yeah, Joana, hello. Joana is from Portugal. She also has, yes, so she has also, how shall I say, 2 hats. Just recently were appointed as a co-director of Doc Lisboa, but you are famous for being producer. Then I also have Lucia Milazzotto. She is the head of Cinecittà's sales and marketing department, just recently introduced and developed. And Daphne, as being the CEO of one of the unique SVOD streaming services platforms based on art house cinema, Sinobo in Greece. So welcome. So I would like to start with Joana. As I mentioned, just before 2020, you actually produced a beautiful award-winning movie, and it's called The Metamorphosis of Birds, and is directed by a female director, so Catarina Vasconcelos. But before we talk about your involvement, let us see the trailer first.
Em alemão, motor, em armênio, maio, em búlgaro, miada, em catalão, maré, em chinês, mochi, em dinamarquês, mor, em francês, mer, em grego, terra, em hebraico, ima, em hindu, mata. Em inglês, mata. Em latim, mata. Em tailandês, mai. Em português, mãe.
Os outros filhos parecem filhos. Eu lembro-me daquela frase.
Tenho tido saudades de pôr o meu nariz por entre as ondas do teu cabelo.
mas ninguém fala da violência das margens que os comprimem.
Se o céu era o sítio onde começava um incógnito, então a paisagem era aquilo que fazia a ponte entre o conhecido e o desconhecido, entre o visível e o invisível. E eu queria muito ser invisível. A paisagem não pertence a ninguém, disse, mas quando a vi, dei-lhe os meus olhos.
And we are back. So it's actually a beautiful story. It's a story about the loss and connecting again with your family members. And it was a Berlin Prize winner, and amazingly enough sold to multiple major territories, including the US, UK, China, Italy, and Spain. And what is very interesting that both yourself and Katarina received the prize from Netflix to incentivize women in cinema. So can we maybe tackle about your, let's say, previous life before Doc Lisboa? How did this collaboration happen, and what can you share with us?
Yeah, so I was co-founder of a production company with a man, Pedro Fernandes Duarte, called First Age. But just to contextualize, what we had in common is that we had to create our own space in a very closed industry for newcomers. So we founded this company having in mind that we want to give space to young voices. So this collaboration started with Katarina came to the production company after only making a short film that was very successful, but she was someone that was not in the cinema industry, for saying. So we were all very, how do I say, hopeful and young and full of energy, and with the belief that we can create this space for this, we believe, very, very good director. So that's how it started. It started with a very, very small budget. And we made a radical decision of shooting during 1 year with a very small team. But believing that this was what will be best for the film. And so we shot during the seasons, and having time that's so precious sometimes, so we didn't follow a normal shooting process, because we believed that what we talked with Katarina, and this is what she needed to make the film. And that was a very beautiful process, very rare, very unique, very collaborative. And for me, it was my happiest experience in producing a film. Not only because Katarina was a woman, young filmmaker, but also because she was very generous in the collaborative process. And so I can say it was a full experience for every participant in the film. Yeah, and then we started in a very humble way. We did it with a very small budget. Katarina participated in Archidoc. She had a small also funding from a foundation here called Gulbenkian Foundation. Of course, she had some support from the Film Institute, small support for production, for the commentaries. And then we did a film with loads of constraints. And then we sent it to Berlin and we won the prize, and that was a big surprise also. Of course, we love the film and we believe the film, but it's very competitive, and it was a very small film in a way. And from then on, it's been like amazing. We sold it to I don't know how many countries, and we've been awarded in many festivals around the world. Katarina has been touring with the film for 2 years. So it was the Berlinale in 2019, before all the pandemic, was the launching rocket that made the film travel so much and resonated so much between so many different countries. And but then we can talk about why resonated, because I really think that the fact that it's focused on 3 women, a grandmother, a mother, and Catarina herself, and that travels through the story of Portugal through the gaze of these 3 women, made it so profound and made it so important, so important in personal experiences of people throughout the world.
I mean, when I looked at the trailer first, I'm like, this is how I imagine Portugal. There is a lot of poetry and melancholy as well. But yes, of course, whenever we experience the loss, it is also somehow more highlighted. And then, I mean, everything happened in terms of your career so fast. 2019, such a huge success story with the film. And in 2020, we see you as the co-director of Doc Lisboa. And
yes,
you are in a way a bit stepping now down as a role, as having the role of producer. And how come you switched so quickly?
Yeah, I've been working for Doc Lisboa, not in this role. We've been appointed together at the end of 2019, but I've been working as in Doc Lisboa since 2015 as a producer. And at the same time, I was having my roles with the Primeira Idade. So it was not it wasn't like from one day to the other. It was something I was doing hand to hand, and then I had to make a decision of concentrating in the festival, of course, because it's humanly impossible, even for a woman, to do it both. So yeah, I'm taking a break of producing, but I'm not giving up on that in the future. I don't know, but for now it was important to be here full in the festival. And because it was a natural path for me, because I worked as a producer very closely to festivals. It is an amazing platform for young filmmakers, and well, it's in documentary in Portugal. It's been on the past 20 years. The festival is going to be 20 years this year. I've been seeing an amazing growth as actually. That a lot of women work in documentary in Portugal. I guess this is the same for the rest of Europe. They make more documentaries than fiction film and feature film. So for me, it was very natural, and I'm very happy to be on this side now. I think it's important to experience different sides of the industry. Yeah, that's it. I'm not sure if I was clear enough. But
thank you. If I may tackle, until so the end of 2019, there was a strong woman running the festival, Cynthia Gil. And
yes.
Then after that, we have 2 Joanas and 1 Miguel running the festival.
Yes.
So
yes.
how do you share your tasks and responsibilities?
We've been working together since 2015. Also, Miguel is actually been here, started as a volunteer in the festival. So we always, for us, it was very natural because we've been working in different positions. I was production director of the festival, then executive director. Joana was focused on the program coordination, Miguel also. So it was like very natural for us, our relationship in running the festival. And we already worked with a very cohesive team, so it was actually very normal. The adaptation between, for me, it's not a question of women and men. For me, what is difficult is the adaptation to a triangle direction, but that's, I think it's normal. Yeah, for us it was clear since the beginning the direction we wanted the festival to go. Doc Lisboa was a very, very strong identity. We are not going to come here and change everything, because we believe this is the festival we want to make. And so we just keep on going with a very strong festival, a very strong curational identity, and we've been working with our very, very different programmers, and also very balanced between the genders and nationalities, and that was actually always the core of the festival. It was never a festival that I will say it had these issues. There was always strong women involved in DOC Lisboa since the very beginning, when it was run by Ana Isabel Strindberg, that actually now, just picking up on strong women, was one of the works at Portugal Film, one of the biggest distributors here in Portugal, and she was one of the responsibles of making also the Metamorphoses. The Metamorphoses such a huge success.
You also mentioned in our discussion, and this is also important to highlight when I ask you, how does your festival contribute to better gender balance? And then we agreed that it's not important to have a special programming focusing on women, but also what we highlighted earlier today, to introduce women in juries, selection committees, in team as well. So if you would like to share some of your thoughts with that.
Yeah, as I was saying, the discussion of quotas for me, it's very complex. It's not clear for me what is the best way to go, but I think you have to create the spaces for this to happen, and so you have to kind of I don't know. The other day I saw a sentence of Kanye West. It has nothing to do with this, but I don't want to bring something to the table. I want to be the table. So in a way, that's what always made sense for me. You have to create, since the beginning of times, there was always the strongest, and then the people that came and regained their story and regained their narrative. You have, nobody's going to give it to you. You create the tables you want to work in. So that's for me. I was always very lucky, I think, to have the opportunity to be heard and to be not only with women, but to be in work relationships with different people, and so we have representation since I remember. There's a strong female programmers in the festival. People, it's very gender equal in that sense. I always worked, like Catarina's shooting was mostly run by women, and and when we choose, going back to the festival, when we think about juries, when we think about retrospectives, we have this in mind. And by creating that, it naturally goes to this path that is always should be. You have to be represented in every way possible that will enrich any cultural event, and you will enrich cinema. In sometimes I think, like when I think about the importance of Jane Campion being awarded in Cannes for her film The Piano, for me that's a big that changed everything for me in terms of representation. I believe that, like, it was the first women, I'm not sure, in 46 years of festival, 46 years, to be awarded the best film. And even so, it was awarded with another film, but and the Piano is just an example of a story for me personally that can only be told by a woman, and those stories are super important. And she had a platform, and the words was the platform of being Cannes was super important for her career. And we have to create, and we are creating more and more those platforms, and I think I don't think we're going back after that. I believe so deeply.
Thank you so much for this sharing. Let me move to Lucia Milazzotto. How shall I introduce Lucia? Let me start with your present job position. It's Cinecittà Sales and Marketing Director, though we all know you as under your ex-Mia Market CEO. So Lucia, for over 20 years, I mean, she's been really an example of a strong woman breaking the rules, bringing innovative strategies in whatever she does. And I would like to see, since you all have this experience of being the head of the market, but also now being the CEO of the sales and marketing, this is kind of not a typical female job. So tell us your secret.
I think it's luck. I mean, I don't have any other secret than luck. Yeah, but I don't know. I had a very, at the very end, quite linear kind of position, as I've been basically at some point had all roles that can be related to managing something or managing complex organizations and focus on business development of them or on the business development of others, and those others are the creative industries and the film and television industry, in particular in the European panorama. So I think the secret is that I was very focused. I was also very lucky because I've been working with men and women, both strong, but both valuing and giving credit to the capacities and skills of people, which is something that all of them taught me. And I am very lucky in working with either men or women that basically focus on talent and on skills and on capacities rather than gender. What I do think is that we all have a great responsibility in terms of inclusions, and generally all our reasoning around and brainstorming around the women position in complex organization always bring great value in a general idea of inclusion, which is not related only to women but to any kind of diversity, which can be valued rather than frustrated.
Okay.
So I don't have any secret, actually.
No, I thought maybe we'll share some tips and tricks.
I would love to, but I don't have secrets.
Yeah, because now your new job position will be focusing mainly on sales and marketing. And let me just allow to highlight, yesterday we pointed out, following the data in 2018, under the media sub-program. So out of 19 selected films to be distributed via selective distribution scheme, only 2 were directed by women. So we see this value chain from the beginning. So the support is needed in terms of having this quota for gender balance in terms of the women's representation, but also in terms of the distribution of funds. And then at the end of this value chain, in terms of the distribution and marketing, there is also a need to acknowledge and help distributing films made by women. So any would you like to?
Yeah, I think that is, I mean, first of all, let's say on the if we take the value chain from the beginning and the end, if you take it from the end, for sure there's more and more openness in promoting women, which may be sometimes related to the fact that this is a value that more and more is important in terms of marketing as well, but also because more and more organizations do feel that it is important. Paradoxically, you find more possibilities and opportunities in promoting women once they finally have the chance to either produce or film or being involved in relevant roles in a film, rather than in giving them the opportunity at the very beginning of the value chain. My feeling is that we are still, at least in Italy, and I mean, from the percentages you gave at the very beginning, also in a large part of Europe, our problem is basically that it's the access to market in general of the young girls. Joanna is a great example of what happened. But anyway, we have large barriers at the entrance of any young talent within the industry, being man or woman. But apart from that, I feel that because of these barriers and because of all the cultural barriers we do have in Europe still, women tend to censor themselves. I mean, I do feel that there's more self-censorship at the moment than the real, formal censorship from the society. And there are two very big barriers for women for their careers. And one is the real access to market. Most women tend not to do some professions. So there's not very much a problem of market them because they don't do any film. So there's nothing to sell. On the other side, there's motherhood. I mean, most of women tend to get out or being bounced out from the market once they have kids, because we don't have most of Latin, all Mediterranean area basically of Europe. It's not structured because it's cultural. It's not structured. I mean, we don't have structures in order to support women in their motherhood while they work and while they express their talents. We are not used to imagine that we should have some kind of structure where they shoot films or how we can support them in expressing themselves. Because it's culture. I mean, you at some point you think that the women will just get out from that or have to choose in between either one. So I would love to tell you that the problem is on the marketing thing. But once women succeed now, as everybody feels the responsibility of being inclusive or not being pointed out as not inclusive, there will be plenty of opportunities of marketing and promotion for women, and sometimes even too much, because sometimes we tend to maybe over-promote women just because they are women, while we should support them at the very beginning of the value chain. That's my point of view.
Thank you for bringing up this private life aspect, because this is something that needs to be acknowledged, because the statistics show that women tend to engage in their first feature after making 3 or 4 short films, and then all of a sudden they disappear, and then it's definitely very difficult to come back on the tracks where they stopped. And this private life is something that needs to be taken definitely into consideration and to balance it with the professional life. So I really echo what you said. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lucia. I would now just like to move to a VOD segment, and we have on board Daphne with us from Greece. So hello, Daphne. First of all, you are, you developed this amazing platform, and it's quite unique because what you said, it has around 1,000 titles or something like that.
Well, we're getting there. We're getting close to 1,000 title library
over there. So, but maybe I give you the floor, and we can see your presentation and what does your platform offer.
Cool. Give me 1 minute. Oops. Okay, so Sinobo, when we launched, many people called us the Greek Netflix for the cinephiles, but we're definitely not, and nothing like that. The only thing that's similar to Netflix is the kind of subscription. So Sinobo is basically a curated subscription VOD streaming service. It was the first one to launch in Greece, and it is dedicated to film. It's specializing in art house and independent cinema. And at the same time, it operates as a film distributor in Greece. We launched 2 years ago, and our 3 goals are basically the ones there. We try to make great cinema truly accessible, whether that is from a mobile screen to a theater. We try to make sure we introduce new audiences to this kind of cinema. And we try to grow the audience of the cinema-loving community and build an interactive community in Greece and hopefully all over the world. So we're experts across many disciplines. We started 2 and today we're 14. Some people are missing from this chart. And we basically all have one thing in common, which is our vision. In terms of the service, it's offered at $7.99 a month and has a 14-day free trial. I won't bore you with all this, but it's basically like you pay the monthly subscription and you get unlimited access to hundreds of hand-picked films. The amenities it offers tech-wise are the usual ones that any good streaming service offers. Yeah, our titles are getting close or approaching 1,000, and we have a lot of filmographies. We represent currently more than 650 directors from many countries. Actually, 75% of our catalog is European films. We constantly keep it up to date and add films, and we often do curated collections and tributes to directors. And before I finish, I'll take you through a bit of our catalog to kind of give an insight over what we do. A main focus is awarded cinema. We actually have more than 130 films awarded in the major and most prestigious festivals. So we also specialize in festival gems. We're always in festivals trying to handpick what makes each film special. We have the first actual catalog of contemporary Greek cinema in Greece, and that's amazing because for so many years people really had no access to Greek cinema in Greece. And obviously classics are not missing from our collection, and premieres. So these are films we also distribute in Greece, and we're very happy for this lineup. It included the Palme d'Or winner Titan and Bad Luck Banging or Lonely Porn, which was the Golden Bear last year. So yeah, that kind of represents the represents what we do. So yeah, Sinobo, since it started, it had a very, very warm welcome, and it has quickly become a love brand among the cinephile community. So here we are to continue create, inspire, and strengthen the community of cinema lovers in Greece, and we do that by giving real access to cinema in whatever way possible. Yeah, that's pretty much a brief intro over the service.
It's not usual, not only for Greece, but for our small countries, to have a woman leading in VOD sector. So was it challenging for you? I mean, how did you start to develop this VOD platform back then?
With lots of hard work and determination, and a good network of collaborators, good team, good mentors, and passion and vision. I think if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be anywhere. It was a really hard journey from the start. Yeah, so I think I was very lucky because my family has been in the industry for a long time. They started from video rental stores in Greece and then also distributed titles. So I think that I'm blessed for having that background and having this close interaction to cinema and this kind of friction from the start of my life. I think that referring to what Lucia was saying earlier, it's very hard in this industry to enter as a young professional. So I think I was lucky for that because I had a good understanding of the industry already and a bit of a network. Yeah, it wasn't easy, but it's done.
And today, if we may underline it, your network is part of the consortium supported by media. So maybe if you can just give us small hints. I know that you're in the process of signing the agreement and everything, but how many of you are actually in this consortium, and how come you joined?
So when I first started Sinobo, there wasn't any opportunities to get funding. It was literally just angel investors that I got all the funding from. I was really, really happy to see the call for VOD platforms. And in Venice Film Festival, we met. I met through Eurovod, a big number of streaming services. And we decided to apply all together for this application because the goal of the application was to basically increase collaboration and knowledge sharing among platforms and improve the visibility of European cinema. So, and to boost the competitiveness of European platforms. So we collaborate. So basically our proposal is a holistic initiative co-designed by a group of 7 VOD operators. The good thing about it is that it's really, it has a really good mix of established brands and very new players, and it's covering different geographical territories. There is a platform from Sweden, a platform from Norway, one from Denmark, Netherlands, ourselves, which is Greece and Cyprus, and then Bulgaria and Lithuania. So all together, we've put a plan together that is structured around an approach of collective experimentation and joint learning and sharing of information.
Oh, perfect. And what is also interesting about your platform, when I searched it, is that I like how you introduced all your team. You're not introduced with a photo, but with a film. So this was very, very interesting. And I'm sorry if maybe it was not highlighted enough, but yeah, I also like the title of your VOD platform. It's the Cinema No Borders, right? This is what it stands for.
Yeah, it's basically Cinema No Borders. And it pretty much represents, totally reflects our philosophy and approach. It's a cinema with vision, cinema with diversity, cinema that totally defies rules and stereotypes, and cinema that crosses cultures. Yeah, so that's why we're here, and I think the name really represents what we do.
Thank you. Yeah, and just since we didn't tackle it, but and we will do now a round of the closing remarks. Your personal point of view in terms of representation of women, either through VOD platforms or being as the heads of or managing directors. So is there something special that you're introducing through your VOD platform, highlighting films directed by women or something like that?
So in terms of diversity, we organically have a very diverse group of, behind the platform and who is running the platform. We're a very, very diverse group, equally split among men and women, different backgrounds. In terms of the films we represent, it is crucial for us to highlight women representation because the absence of women for a very, very long time from cinema in leading roles in production was very pronounced. So although we still don't have, I would say, a 50-50 representation in our platform, it's definitely proportionate to the production that is out there. Our criteria for a film entering Sinobo are quite strict and selective, but we try to not skew and choose just because somebody's a female director. But we certainly highlight, and we see the change coming in more and more production out there from women. Yeah, so we have a category called female gaze, and I really hope it's the last time that we will need to create a category like that. But it's an amazing category. It started as a thematic collection, as a tribute to women, and it went really well, so it's kept as a category. But we really hope in the future we won't need to highlight this anymore because, as I said in my quote, I really want to believe in a future where we won't need to define anybody as male or female or anything like that.
Thank you. And maybe for the last wording also to hear Joanna. What would you like to see changed?
Everything.
From the bottom up.
What I would like to see change. I think
would you like to introduce changes in Portugal, for example, at first?
Yeah, I think the Film Institute is starting to introduce some changes, but it's still a conversation that needs to be being taken more often in Portugal. I know that on the 8th was International Women's Day, but it's not enough the day. I think things like these are important. To be able to go to schools and talk, and to be able to experience these, giving this space is the beginning to young women will be very important, because you experience this so young, your confidence can be shaken so young, you know, and something that really needs to change, it's the maternity leave. Sorry for being so specific, but what is demanded by a Portuguese woman worker, as I think most women workers right now, is insane. I'm actually, I have a 1-year-old. Oh. Are you hearing me? Because
Yes.
Oh, sorry, because I can't hear. I've been a mother in this process of during the pandemic, and I didn't realize how immediately difficult things are in the working space and in the working environment. You have to in all industries, not only cinema, you have to create a space. You cannot have you have to, like in shootings, if you have a young mother working, you have to create normal hours of working. If you are in an office, you have to create, I know there's a lot of work to do, but you have to create that space, personal space and family space. And because then you'll have a better mental space for everybody. And the pandemic was really hard, and it highlighted a lot of issues. Working at home with a kid, etc., etc., etc. And it's not as hard for men, that's for sure. That's for sure, and that has to change. Not only in cinema, everywhere.
In all aspects of not only the industry, but in general. Yes, you tackled safe space, a common space, and this is something that also with events as such, we are trying to bring along. So more dialogue, more open and honest dialogue among each other, exchange, and to be really backing each other. So thank you for your interventions and this sharing in the second round of panelists, so Joanna, Daphne, and Lucia. And also would like to thank my first panelists, starting with Maite, Dubravka, and Christine. So it was amazing that how different and culturally diverse we are, but we all share the same need to be presented and acknowledged more. And for tomorrow, specifically, we prepared a conversation in a form of interview with director Jasmila Žbanić, and especially regarding her film Quo Vadis Aida, and we will be delighted to announce it that it's going to be moderated by Wendy Mitchell. Thank you so much for being with us. So stay tuned one more day and have a lovely day ahead. Thank you. Bye.